Welcome back to the By Design podcast. I'm your host, Ronnie Knuckles, and today we are having another group discussion. There's a lot of interesting stuff that has happened since our last discussion. What did we talk about? Chernobyl and Gorillas. Yeah, that's old news now.
The letter from Satan.
That now feels like mid-2000s.
It might be old news, but I see gorillas on my timeline still every day.
Yeah.
Oh, it's still feeding them to me.
They have not went anywhere.
Yep.
I had a change of heart.
Really?
I texted in the group. Oh, I texted in the wrong group. I just texted in the Spearcrest group. But
He hates me.
I saw a gorilla fight on TikTok, and
It was terrifying.
you're gonna need 100 guys.
I posted a clip of that argument that we had about
Yeah.
that, and Hannah messaged me. I posted on Instagram, and Hannah, my wife, messaged me and said, "This looks like 100 men versus trying to complete a sentence."
Oh,
Dang.
You know what,
I
man?
said,
Cooked us.
All right.
She's not wrong.
Cooked us.
We do talk a lot over each other, but it's because we're all passionate about gorilla fights.
But we also tried no headphones last episode.
Yeah, it was
That's right.
wrong move.
And we're all just such alpha males. We just like,
You kind of give beta. though.
beat me. I'm talking, boy.
Yeah. Anyway.
I think there's only one alpha, the dude that said he could beat a gorilla by himself, and that was you.
I never said that.
Okay, 5 of
you
you.
said
or
no.
whatever.
He said 10 Tims.
10
10
Tims.
Tims.
10 Tims?
That was
10 Tims.
I'm not sure
And-
1,000 Tims could beat a gorilla.
Listen, dude. 1,000
Dude.
Tims wouldn't even attempt it because I'm too smart for that. After seeing that gorilla fight, I'm like,
Weapons only.
it would take 100 guys, but it ain't gonna be Tim.
I'm not sure you could give Tim a gun and he'd still beat a gorilla.
100 Tims would wear him out. The other 900 would prevail.
Nah.
Nah, I don't know.
Yeah.
No, by the time you got to like the 900th Tim, they may have learned the gorilla's patterns.
Yeah.
So they're like blocking and parrying and
Yeah.
know when to dodge.
There's enough death at that point. They could climb on top of the pile of dead Tims and stone cold stun him. You know what I'm saying?
Rock bottom.
Anyways,
They'll rock bottom me from the top body.
All right, screw it. Let's do another gorilla
yeah,
episode.
yeah.
Here we go.
No, I mean, so I was going to get into some like kind of mid-level heavy stuff right out of the gate.
Let's do
You
it.
boys ready?
Yeah.
We're getting dark.
I know Tim had a point about the chief podcaster, Joe Rogan, that he wants to bring up. This might lead into that. So I don't know where I saw this, probably Instagram or TikTok in my mindless scrolling that I unintentionally do sometimes. But Christians are now being arrested in England for street preaching. Let me preface this by saying I have had my own run-ins with street preachers who were not preaching the gospel.
Same.
And everybody that walked by, they were telling them they were sinners and going to hell. And
Yeah, I feel like
Back in
90%
my-
of them are doing it wrong.
back in my younger days, I just I felt kind of bad about it after, but it got intense. I was like, me and this street
Oh, you,
preacher
like,
were about to-
engaged with him?
Oh yeah, dude, we were about to throw down. He was like about to fight. It was legit.
Well, dude, I've heard guys like that calling people some horrible names that I will not say.
Yeah,
think
you told me
that's
about that at
on this.
Forecastle.
Yeah. Just stand, and they're putting themselves in this position where it's like,
You're putting people on the
you know
defensive.
what kind of people are showing up there, and you're still going to go there and start calling them all these names. That's
I think that's what most
That's
of them are
stupid. That is
trying
not-
to do. Is
For sure.
Well, it's
create-
not the gospel.
Yeah.
And it's not how Jesus
Exactly.
preached. Jesus
No.
was the
Trying to
original
instill
street
fear
preacher.
in him. I actually had the same run-in on St.
Right.
Patrick's Day this past.
Oh yeah, you told me about that.
right.
Oh yeah.
So for me, it's
Oh,
like
yeah.
With St. Patrick?
Yeah, Mr. St. Patrick.
so here's the thing.
Yeah, guy's a dweeb. Turns out.
He's short.
But he was yelling at
Hey.
me. It was,
Hey.
we just left the bar or whatever. Everybody's drinking, having a good time, and he just, I guess, singles me. I don't know. He's yelling at me, telling me that I'm going to hell, this and that.
It's because you're so short.
I'm not. He was actually really short. He
Hey.
was standing on a ledge, and I was still taller than him.
It's like me.
And he was just yelling at me, calling me names, this, that. Oh, I mouthed. My wife was not happy
Yeah,
with me.
I couldn't handle it. I popped off. And so let me say this. I think that a lot of street preachers do it the wrong way. I think that some do it the right way. And I think that some people come to Christ through street preaching still.
I've
Oh,
never
yeah.
seen it the right way.
I
Well,
have.
look.
They're out
so
there.
so
Yeah.
in Uganda, that's like a big thing. Like a lot of people just do that. Like they beg for food and they stand on the street and preach the gospel, and they'll lead a lot of people to Christ.
Yeah.
I'm sure they get things wrong, and sometimes it probably gets awkward and weird. And
Let me say this
They
too.
got the spirit.
But that's a very common thing over there, and they're doing a good job at it, I think.
So street preaching is not for me, okay? But I think that There is good street preaching. I've seen a dude on. It's always on the TikToks, man.
Always.
He's a good street preacher though, and he'll like debate people, but he'll do it well. Like he'll do it in love with people. Like he's not being
With grace.
weird. There's the other young
Not
guy.
condemning.
He'll go to like festivals for
Festivals.
trans people, and he'll go there and he'll just pray for people. Like he's not preaching at them. He's
Bryce.
like, "Hey man, can I pray for you?" And then he'll just pray over them. Like he's not trying to push anything on them. To me, that's if you're gonna do it, that's the way to do
I'm
it.
seeing a lot of
Respectful
young
way to
guys
do it.
do that.
It's
It's typically the
correct.
older guys you're seeing doing it the wrong way, but I've been
Yeah.
seeing like a resurgence of young people getting out there and doing
Talking
it.
about Bryce Crawford?
Bryce
correct way.
Crawford,
Yeah.
I don't
Shout
know.
out.
I don't know.
Dude.
Shout out Bryce Crawford. Give us a call.
He's young too. He's only like 20, but he's got some stones on him to go and do that because he's going into some environments where you could get physically beaten going in there doing what he's doing. But he's doing it like Riot said. He's kind of cracked the code because he's not going in there and being like,
Being hostile.
"You're going to hell." He's going, "Hey man, can I pray for you?" And most people are open to that.
I mean, Jesus was never condemning anybody.
Right.
You know,
He's
it's,
not-
it's about grace,
Yeah.
not condemnation.
And in his
So-
prayers, he's like, "Hey, God, reveal yourselves to them in visions and dreams. Like, let them know you're real." Essentially, it's his prayer over them, which I think if you're going to do it, that's the right way. So, my point in this whole thing is, though, in England, if you are street preaching, whether or not it's something that we would agree with or not, they're taking you to jail. And to me, it was a realization that in America, we take for granted the rights that we have as a country. The very First Amendment protects us from the government being able to do what they're doing in England. And it's almost like we think of England as this other democracy who is as free as we are, but they're not. Freedom of speech is an American thing. It does not exist anywhere else in the world. Now, in America, you still have freedom to say what you want, but you don't have freedom from the consequences if it damages someone else or you have a hate speech that looks different right now. It's been kind of twisted and manipulated. But I don't know, it just stood out to me like, oh, there's coming a day in our future where, it's biblical, and we'll probably get into this in Revelation, where Christians will be persecuted everywhere on the planet for preaching the gospel. And it's starting to happen in Western culture. And so, I don't know, just all of the comments, because I always read the comments. I feel like comments are kind of a good temperature check because the videos can be manipulated one way or the other. They can lean toward street preach, this guy's being persecuted, or they can lean toward they need to stop this. So if you read the comments and you read a lot of them, you can typically get a good temperature check on what do people actually think about this. Overwhelming majority of comments, they need to do this in America too. And so I'm just like,
Well, that shows because anything negative is going to have more publicity anyway.
Right. And people are drawn to
we
negative.
see the majority of that. And honestly, that's what gets more clicks and stuff, but it's never going to work. I think taking an adversarial stance. So if I'm meeting you for the first time and I'm just like, you're bad, you're wrong, that's automatically going to put you on the defensive.
Right.
I'm an adversary to you now.
right.
How are we ever going to come together? How are you going to come to my side if you feel like I'm against you?
Right.
That's not how Jesus does it.
And without forgiveness, you're never going to. And understanding that it ain't about you, it's about the gospel. I will say this too, this isn't like an isolated incident, because I wasn't even going to bring it up. I'm like, whatever, one preacher got arrested, he was probably saying something crazy, and then, but it's happened like over the last 2 or 3 years, they've arrested a large number of people for street preaching.
Do you know how long they're putting them in there for?
I'm not sure, but I know they're getting heavy, it's more of like a heavy monetary penalty.
Fine.
Yeah. Yeah, so depending on like where they were at and if they, I don't know. There's stipulations. Like one guy got like $25,000 fine.
Jeez.
Or euros. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like it's not like a don't do that. It's a hey, like
You're never gonna do this again.
you will never do this again or else kind of a thing.
Yeah.
And to me, that's where it's starting to get. I said that I don't like street preaching personally. To say that they have the right to do that and we should protect their right to do that.
I think I could like it if they just went about it a better
we should
Well,
protect
we're
free
blessed-
speech in America. Period.
Agreed.
Period. If it's even if it's speech we don't like, it needs to be protected speech.
And that's what the Second Amendment's for.
Correct.
Come on. Click, clack.
Hey, for sure. Hey, honestly though, I think that's why they did it that way. They were like, we're going to allow. There's been some funny like SNL skits too, but it's like we're going to allow people to say anything they want. And then the next guy was like, we should probably let them protect themselves if we're going to let them say whatever they
That
want.
one with what's his name?
Is it Nate Bargatze?
No. It's
Oh, he did the
Boyd
George
Crowder.
Washington one. Yeah, Boyd Crowder.
Oh man, what is his name? Walton Goggins.
Yeah.
Walton Goggins.
Yeah.
We
only know him through Justified.
He says,
Matt.
they said, "What's your name?" He said, "Matt." And then they said, he's like talking about what he proposes, and he just goes, "Guns."
And they're like, "Well, sir," and he's
Like,
like,
the rest of the guys are getting hyped up. They're like, yeah, I like
"Yeah."
this
They're like,
guy.
"I like this guy."
Yeah. He's like, they're like, we can't just have an amendment that just says guns.
It said, what do you mean with the guns? And he said, having them.
Y'all are gonna have to show me that. I've never seen
It
it.
just came out the other day.
Yeah,
did
yeah.
it?
Just
It was on his
Yeah.
SNL skit, yeah.
funny.
But anyway, I don't know, man. As I was thinking about random topics to discuss, I'm glad that they have the backup horn right next to the wall here.
Yeah,
Well,
that's
so we
right.
know
Yeah.
not to be in their way. Like now we're not going to get
We're
hit.
safe.
Yeah, sure.
We're safe.
We're prepared.
Yeah, it's a good thing that this block wall's here. We would not be safe.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. So I think that it just as an American, we don't really, and America doesn't feel as free as it used to. Like you got to pay to do anything anymore. Like, if you want to go fishing, you got to pay the state $50. And it's just, I don't know, it feels kind of like that. But also we have so many freedoms here that
And we take a lot of them for granted.
we do. Like just the
Every
freedom
day.
of speech, just to be able to say what you want, and regardless of whether people agree. I mean, some people say some pretty nasty things. They have the right to do that. And we need to protect their right to do that.
Depends on who you ask, though. I feel like some people think that freedom of speech is dead.
A lot of people think that we shouldn't protect that.
Well, I think a lot of people think that that's not a thing anymore. You
No,
don't
I
have
think it's a
freedom.
thing. I think it's a thing.
I think there's
Well,
people
if you
out there that-
compare, it, I mean, it's changed here, obviously. But
Yeah,
if
yeah.
you compare it to most other countries in the world, we have way more freedom.
I'm not saying that it's not there. I'm just saying people are starting to think
Yeah.
that it's not allowed anymore.
Oh, if you
It's
talk to
still
most
a
young
thing.
people,
Yeah.
they act like
Yeah.
we're in a
I mean, in
prison
some
state.
ways,
We're
that's
censored
right.
already.
Look at it on
right?
social media. They suppress people all the time.
So
for
this is
saying
where
things.
where the line gets weird, because social media is a private company, right? Facebook is I mean, they might be publicly traded, but an individual created Facebook. The government doesn't own Facebook.
Right.
So if Facebook censors something, it's their right to do so. Is it wrong? Yeah. They shouldn't do that. And I think they've actually taken a different stance
Yeah,
over the
Zuckerberg
last
rolled it all back ever since.
Yeah,
Trump
Zuckerberg
got
was
in
like, we're
office.
just going to let people say what they want to say, and we're going to try to make sure there's like no, like we're not going to let terrorists come on here and like,
Yeah.
organize.
But
and-
he also talked about political collusion, basically, with Facebook.
He did, and-
government officials.
so that's where the
So-
line gets drawn.
Yeah,
so
we know
if,
what happened last election. Not last election, but the one before that.
if governments are getting involved in social media, then the government has to get involved and say, okay, well, we can't have governments manipulating populations through social media. But from a social media standpoint, this is just if they are censoring people for hate speech. Again, this gets into like, what is hate speech because it hurts your feelings, or is it, you know what I'm saying? Are people actually trying to like destroy your life through speech, which I don't think is possible. Anyway, my point is, Facebook can do what they want. They can censor people, but from a governmental standpoint, the government should not limit speech in any way, shape, or form. Now, if it is, if there's a court hearing going on and some guy gets up and interrupts the court hearing and proceedings can't move forward, this guy, that's a different situation, right? Like, business still has to get done. We can't just interrupt everything and say, well, it's my freedom to say this. It's like, okay, well, also, like, sure, there needs to be some standards in what that means.
Right.
But he should still have the right to say what he wants to say in a public space if that's what he wants to say. But that doesn't mean that he is the social repercussions of what you say still apply, right?
Mm-hmm.
But if a guy wants to go in front of he's not on private property and he wants to go and say whatever he wants, let him say it. It's his right. He's got the social repercussions coming to him. So I agree, though. I do think that freedom of speech has changed some, but comparatively to the rest of the world, it's not even close. What our rights are as Americans to be able to say what we want.
What's changed is the general population
Land of the
thinking
free.
because I don't like what you said, you shouldn't be allowed to say it.
Right.
That's what's changed the most is this entitlement of, oh, that hurts my feelings.
Yeah.
You shouldn't be allowed to do that.
our culture has changed.
Suck it up.
Yeah.
Suck it up, people.
Suck it up. You can handle it. Anyway.
Yeah. I get called a ginger all the time when my hair is clearly chestnut, and I don't try to outlaw Dakota.
Do you see him?
I don't
being
know.
mean.
You sent a reel the other day talking about having ginger hair and how
You see him complaining?
Don't.
Are you gonna get into? You're gonna get into
How
that?
you are Tim's favorite nowadays.
You are my favorite.
Thank you, Tim.
It's because of your hair
Wow.
I knew it.
and your sweetheart.
I do have a sweetheart.
And the way that TikTok explained it.
What?
Anyways,
The reel that was
Moving
sent.
on.
couple of things.
I gotta go.
You got to go?
Yeah.
Hey, real quick, who's your favorite Pokemon?
I've never gotten into Pokemon.
Oh,
Wrong.
Pokemon is demonic, though, for real.
Shut up.
How?
Shut up.
How?
Shut up.
Because they
Barrett.
evolve.
How?
Because Tim
Google
said
it.
so.
Just Google it, dude.
Trust me.
Just look into
It's
it.
not
Tim's
a
like,
rabbit
I don't
hole.
let my kids watch Lord of the Rings or Harry Potter because it's demonic.
I don't let them watch Harry Potter.
Of course you don't. Weirdo.
Great movie.
That's witchcraft, bro. What are you talking about?
That's not actual witchcraft. That's magic.
Yeah.
He's like, they can't watch How
It's
to
the
Train Your
same
Dragons.
thing.
It's
Where's
demonic.
where's the power come from?
You know what, Tim?
Themselves. They're
God
they're
or
like
no?
mutants. Okay,
You know
so
what,
do you
Tim?
think Superman is
Shut
demonic?
up.
Where's his power come from?
Shut up.
Is it?
Shut
I don't
up.
know. Does
Or
it come
the-
from God or
Or
no?
or the X-Men. It's fictitious.
They're all demonic.
It's fictitious.
It's just fiction.
All right, hang on. Let me get into
Not my problem.
let's
J.K.
talk-
Rowling
Not my problem.
is a Christian, and
Yeah,
she
he
wrote
is.
that. There's allegories
Allegedly.
between that, and
Allegedly, I don't know her.
What you got to say about
you
that,
can tell
dude?
by reading her writings.
I hate Pokemon.
I can't believe the guy
Okay.
doesn't have a favorite
Wrong
Pokemon.
again.
No, we were talking.
That ain't gonna work,
Where'd he
sir.
go?
I'm not going
Where'd he
anywhere.
Look, I want to go back to the street preaching because I get it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not a big fan of street preaching myself, but like I was talking about,
But you look like you would be a fan, just to be fair.
Yeah, you're like incognito mode over there. Like,
What does
there does not.
yeah. I get those vibes.
But no, that's a blessing of being in America. Street preaching in a lot of other places is the only way a lot of people are ever going to hear the name of Jesus.
That's a good point.
Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, and for us, it's like one of those things where it's just annoying. Like it's an annoyance. Man, I'm glad that alarm's going off right now.
Dude. Dakota.
Are you new here?
this podcast is being filmed in a working office.
It
You
is.
may hear
Yeah.
working office.
Dakota
things.
is working today. He's actually doing something
Wow.
important. So,
Side door, bro.
and he went out the front door.
and slamming
And
doors on
slammed
us.
it.
He is. You know what? He's on one.
You
today.
know what, Ronnie? Fired.
Yep.
Really need to.
Where's my button?
You remember we were talking about that. We were talking about firing him, and we need
And
to
here he is.
reconsider
Just
that.
yeah, we
again.
did.
Yeah.
Should we fire him just on this recording, and then when he watches it back, that's how it's delivered to him?
Oh, that would
Yeah.
be good.
Yeah, you ready?
That would be hilarious.
I'm pretty sure that we would get sued for that. Just like everything else, apparently. So you had a topic that you wanted to bring up that kind of plays into this. So
Let Tim
Yeah.
top
I
it.
don't want to steal your thunder.
All right.
I just touched my lips on the mic and it weirded me out. But
Well,
anyway,
think how the mic felt.
it's true. Probably felt great. Anyway,
Now you're getting sued again about the mic. SA.
are you okay?
All right, what's your topic, Tim?
Yeah,
Well, you sent me that reel from Rogan.
yeah, crazy.
When he was, I don't know. I don't even know the guest's name on that.
Well, he
on
had
that
Wesley
episode.
Huff on. I think that
That's not that episode.
I know. I'm just saying. I think that that's what like led into him making these statements.
I've been seeing him creeping closer and closer to God and Jesus and everything
Right.
over the years. But
Rogan?
yeah. So
He's
he
made
had-
statements like Jordan Peterson. I think kind of even though Jordan Peterson, I don't think is a professing Christian. He's pretty.
He is now.
Is he?
Yeah, he was on another podcast called something with Stephen
Thank you.
Bartlett.
Oh yeah.
You know what is it?
I don't know, man. Anyway, moving on.
Google it because it's a great podcast.
Dude, all
But-
right.
Yeah, but I have
So-
heard that he's professing.
But
I
on
just
there,
haven't-
Well, he's always
hold up. On there,
Go ahead.
that guy is specifically asking him, so you think Jesus is, and then he kind of pauses, and Jordan Peterson says, God? Yeah, I do. So, I mean,
I just haven't watched
That's-
Rogan in a while, so I didn't know that.
yeah, same. But he sent me that clip because I'll see the clips too. Anything on Instagram that talks about God and stuff, that's like in my algorithm now.
Yeah.
So
yeah. So
let's see.
I'll tell you what. Are you looking up? Hold on. Sorry. Are we looking up the?
I'm just gonna find the guest name.
Okay.
If I can. Looks like it might be from several guests ago, so I'm gonna give up on this search real quick.
We need it better,
Uh-huh.
Jamie.
So, anyways, that clip he sent me, they were talking about basically comparing the Big Bang to creation. You know, creationism versus I don't know what you call it.
Bang.
Evolutionaryism.
Bang stuff.
Evolution. Evolution.
Yeah. And he says, I'm sticking with Jesus on that one.
Yeah, he did.
Rogan said that?
Yeah,
Yeah,
so then Rogan goes on to explain it a little bit, and he said, so the people that believe in the Big Bang and believe in evolution, they want you to ignore all of the miracles of creation, but they want you to believe their miracle. He's like, in order to believe in evolution and the theory of the Big Bang, you have to believe in the most crazy miracle ever. But the miracles of Jesus and creation through a God, you have to ignore those. And he's like, it's crazy. And he's like, look at the world around you. Look at their creation is in the world we live in. And he's like, so you're telling me that two particles the size of a tip of a pin collided, and then somehow everything we see around us today now exists. You want me to believe that, but you don't want me to believe that a creator designed this place. He's like, I'm sticking with Jesus on this one.
So I have kind of an interesting take on that.
Love hearing that.
because
Interesting for Joe Rogan, who was like a staunch. I don't think he was ever he was never a professed atheist though. He was just agnostic. He was just like, there's not enough.
He's
always
evidence.
said that he believed that there was some sort of higher power. But I don't think that our beliefs completely discredit the science of how things, of how the world works, how things grow,
Oh,
how
for sure.
things happen. Because because I believe God created everything. So the universe popped into existence when God created it. There's still science behind all that stuff. And, I don't know how he did it, but we can, trace certain things back. God created science. God created how things work.
I think it speaks to the power of God because he spoke and creation exploded into existence.
One
So
might
I
even
think-
say it banged into existence.
Exactly. So whatever evidence they're seeing on their little cameras or whatever, that's just
Wherever they're getting their info
on
from.
their little
This is how you know we're well
on their
educated.
little
Yeah,
diodes,
yeah.
Whatever they're seeing in their carbon dating or whatever.
whatever it is.
Also, the carbon dating. I think that's all real too. Where people are saying like, "Oh, this
Bogus.
fossil is millions of years old."
No.
I do. I
What's your-
think
Why
that
couldn't God
God
have
created a mature Earth.
Yeah. Oh, we may have talked about this already.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Why
why couldn't
wouldn't
he
he
have
have
said
done
like,
that?
"Hey, this is a rock," and it
You think he just created an Earth that was just had oceans and bald land?
How does that line up with carbon dating though?
If it was created to be a mature Earth, that means that the rocks and things underneath the ground would have been mature upon
because
creation.
we see how rocks change and grow and stuff like that over time. That we know that process works, and so that's what they're using to see how long and how old some of these things are. But he just stuck a mountain there. It didn't.
He created a mature. I believe he created a mature Earth, and also.
I feel like that goes against carbon dating though. 'Cause
But does it-
What's carbon dating?
what do you mean? It goes with carbon dating, brother.
Explain.
Carbon dating is where they go and they take a sample into the ground and they pull that sample out.
Okay.
Right, and they know that at this depth in this particular area, this was the ground level at X amount of years ago. Right.
Did not know that.
10 million
It's
years.
measuring the amount of radioactive carbon-14 remaining in an organic material.
Yeah. So they're saying that
Because
there's
plants absorb carbon from the atmosphere and
Right.
recycle it and stuff like that. So that's how they're able to.
so they
tell
can take
something.
this they can take this sample and they can say this is this was ground level, whether or not it was at this age. So if God creates a mature Earth, the Earth is created at this stage, it can appear to be however many years old, right? Because the science behind carbon dating is actually pretty sound. But we as Christians believe that the Earth isn't 50 million years old. So how do you explain carbon dating and the science behind it? My theory is that God created a mature Earth because God has the ability to create a mature Earth.
So doesn't that cancel the process of carbon dating out? If the Earth is mature,
there still has to be layers of soil, though, Tim.
It's like
You know what I'm
planting.
saying?
It's like planting a flower. It's like creating a flower versus planting the seed and letting it grow.
What Tim is
So
saying.
look-
What Tim is saying
carbon
is
dating
that
has
you
showed
wouldn't-
us that there's things that are millions and hundreds of millions of years old, right?
Sure.
Okay, so if he created a mature Earth, things are not 100 million years old.
No, it's stuck in there to where it looks like it had already been there. For
He
100 million
created,
years.
yes, he created the Earth in such a way that there are layers of soil. And so if you go, it's a mature Earth. It's created maturely. It is already mature. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Okay.
So there would be layers of
200
soil.
million years ago?
Tim.
Or no?
Oh my gosh.
However many years ago.
Let's say he did it last year.
Okay.
He created it mature. So if I go and dig 100 feet in the ground, the soil down there is going to appear to be older than maybe it actually is because the earth was created in a mature way.
Like when he just created a tree, just popped it into existence.
Tim's brain
if you cut the tree, you can still see all those rings there, which we know the rings are, oh, this is how old this tree is.
Okay.
But he just created that tree.
Yeah, he popped the tree, and let's just say he popped the tree.
So the tree is not actually 50 million years
No,
old.
Correct.
but it looks like it was.
Correct.
Okay. So then carbon dating is wrong.
Because that process,
Oh,
it's
I'm not-
wrong about
I'm
how
not-
old the Earth
Correct.
is, but the science
Okay.
behind it is still
Yes,
accurate.
that's what we're
Okay.
trying to say.
Okay, I'm with you.
I don't
My
I don't
bad.
agree.
My bad. I thought you were saying it felt like you were saying conflicting arguments and agreeing with both of them.
No.
My question-
we are
That's
in a
how we win our debates.
yeah. Now we got him. Now what we are saying is,
I'm with you. I'm with you.
Yeah. So carbon dating, I don't believe is accurate because I believe that the Earth was created in a mature way. And if you don't believe that,
The method is right, but the numbers.
It's because of the process.
not.
He put that process in place. So that was my point, was that like the scientific process they're going on,
Okay.
saying like,
Yeah.
okay, yeah, like
Like the
these
science
birds-
behind it.
these
Hey, listen,
birds-
that's why we got to run it out sometimes,
Yeah.
dude. Because
Well,
I ain't the only one.
how long did Adam and Eve come around after
okay,
creation?
so this is where I was going into. We don't know.
We don't know
how
Because-
long a day was back then.
Well,
the
and we
7 days
also-
of
I get
creation.
that,
Well,
but does it
even
ever
before.
say like when Adam and Eve appeared after creation?
No. So hold on. Let me
The
run this.
sixth day, I think.
Let me run this point out to you. Oh, well,
Because
yeah.
the Garden
you
of
don't-
Eden was
But
already
hold on.
grown. And
In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. Right?
And the earth was without form, was void.
It was void, and the face of God hovered over the deep. Right? So when the earth was first created,
Space.
or just water. Right? And so
Well,
God.
does it say he added oceans though?
Well, it was without form or
He
void.
separated.
And
Yeah.
God, it says that the face of God hovered over the deep, or God hovered over the deep, or
the
whatever.
spirit.
And when we say the deep, we're thinking the water, right? That's what it's referring to. And then he separates land and ocean and creates the land. We don't know how, there's no timeline. Now, some people say, well, it had to have been literal days. I believe it was literal days.
Once they started counting, yeah.
Okay, so just hang on. I believe that it was literal days, and I believe that when the earth was created and land was made, it was made maturely, right? Some people don't agree with that. They say, well, we don't know the timelines, and so just over, that could have been 1,000,000 years one day, right? Because there's another part in the Bible where it talks about one day in heaven is 1,000 years on earth. So maybe it was 1,000 years, right? So there's all these other theories. I don't think it matters, to be completely honest with you. I don't think either argument matters. I think it's just cool to think about.
I was just going to say if they were there, 2-3 days after God created the earth, the Garden of Eden was already mature. Like there was apples on trees.
So that's kind of my theory. I just think that makes the most sense logically. And I also think that God is clearly the master creator. Why wouldn't he create a mature earth? I don't know.
Well,
And again, that's logic based. There's no science behind that.
When he created it, he intended for it to be perfect, right?
Correct.
Yes.
And then Satan
And
came.
then we messed it up.
Well, yeah.
But anyway.
Same thing. Satan came, and we messed up.
It was a collaborative effort. We did it together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But no, I mean, it's one of those debates where it's kind of crazy. But I think irregardless of how long was a day in Genesis, or was it a literal day and the earth was created in a mature way, doesn't matter. I think that if you look around you, do we got
That rooster is going
chicken is
crazy
going
next
hard?
door.
Yeah, he's the new guy, so he's trying to show out.
It's no longer Cluck Norris.
Clark Norris
But
got eaten.
But
He's a chicken sandwich.
Clark Norris is dead.
Oh yeah, he's gone.
Yeah.
They got a
He
big
been
old.
gone,
They got a
dude.
big old rusty-headed rooster
Now
over
it's-
there now. and
now
he's-
it's Chick
Beautiful.
Norris.
It's a beautiful rooster,
he
man.
is
For real.
He is.
Nice guy too. Nice guy.
Is he
too.
nice? He doesn't
Yeah.
look like he would be
No,
nice.
man.
rooster.
and
Dude, they
I'll-
feed him
I'll walk-
donuts up at
I'll-
Sugar and Spice.
Oh, yeah.
What?
Yeah. They hang out up there every morning.
I'll walk
Waiting.
by him, and he just shuffles out of the way. Shuffles the
Clark
other
Norris.
hands out of
Hey,
the way.
one day we were up here. Sorry,
Nice guy.
I know we're getting sidetracked. We were up here in the lot, and I was talking to the Sergeant Junket guys, and Mike, one of the Sergeant Junket guys, had his door open on his truck. And we're sitting there talking, and Mike is taking chicken fingers and he's feeding it to the chickens.
Cannibalism.
And I was like, Mike, what are you doing? He's like, I just think it's hilarious that they eat chicken. And I'm like, they'll eat anything.
He's a
so
sick
then
man.
so then he's like, I gotta go. And we look over, and Cluck Norris is just in his front seat. And like there's like two hens that are like in his passenger seat, and they're just rooting through his truck, just eating all the trash. And he's like, "Come on, get out of there!" And all these chickens come flying out of his truck, and I'm like, "What are we doing here right now, man?"
Very surreal moment.
That sounds right up Mike's alley.
But then Cluck Norris, he matured in age. He was a pesky fella. He would lead them down here a lot, and Dolly loved to chase him. But then they got that new big rooster. And she don't mess with him. He's pretty intimidating.
Don't blame her.
He's a big boy.
Yeah.
Does he have the big raptor claws?
Yeah, he's got big old claws and he's got a big red head on him.
He's a colorful guy.
He
I don't
looks
think
like
I've seen him yet.
I saw him and they got another rooster too, I believe, and I saw him out back the other day fighting each other, just getting after it.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, when you're here at work, you'll hear them all day long.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
They don't stop.
Hilarious.
I thought it was just a morning thing.
It'd be like 3 p.m.
I don't really know why do roosters crow?
I don't know.
Anybody know?
I think it's like
Riot's on it.
I'm gonna say some totally unverified stuff.
I think it has something to do with like asserting dominance,
Yeah, is it like a mating call?
I think it's just like a yawn, or like
like a tail wag for a dog.
You gotta stretch.
I love this. Roosters crow for a variety of reasons, including announcing their presence, defending territory, warning of danger, establishing dominance, and signaling their readiness to mate.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
see?
all the things that we said.
Bingo.
So it could be anywhere from
He's keyed up.
hey guys, I'm here, to hey ladies, I'm here.
I want to do 3 things. They all start with F. But anyway, we are getting off track.
Okay, back to the Bible. Before days are even mentioned, this, like you said, the Spirit. What? Oh,
The rooster.
somebody's ringing.
Wow. Anyway,
wondering what that was.
days were even
No,
mentioned
no,
in the
that
Bible.
Yeah, before the days are even mentioned, who knows how long that was?
Yeah.
That's what I've always
Yeah,
thought.
yeah.
Like, okay, the Spirit of God is hovering over the face of the deep. Could be 100 million years.
But also,
Don't know.
there was no land. That's my only contention at that point, because the
It
land
doesn't
isn't
matter.
aging.
Yeah, but it doesn't matter. It's God.
I
Like
know.
you said, He can make it look. And,
He can do whatever he wants.
yeah.
That would be
And
cool to
also,
know.
our little tiny brains
Yeah, yeah.
can't comprehend eternity. And I think when we talk about God as an eternal God, meaning that there's no time that He existed. We are not created in a way to even understand what that means, right? And then when all this is over and we go into eternity, you hear that a lot. Trying to grasp what eternity means before us and then after us we can't do it. We're not designed to do
brain
it.
racking. It really is.
Well, we couldn't. It would literally drive us insane. And so I think part of the creation story in Genesis, they want us to understand kind of a timeline because we are created as human beings that need a timeline, right? And so I think that's why it's created. And so there are gaps there intentionally. And also it kind of leaves the door open for the argument, because if they were firm, like, 100 million years ago, God created the land, right? Like, so let's just imagine that was in Genesis. And then somehow carbon dating found something from 150 million years ago. People would then go, well, yeah, see, your Bible's wrong. Whereas in the way the story is written, it kind of leaves that door open, where it's like, his face hovered over the deep. Well, for how long? Well, we don't know. Well, then how can you say it's real? Well, here's all the other reasons I can say it's real. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think if it were firm in that, people would be able to manipulate it much more. But without some kind of firm, rigid, it was 150 million years ago, then this, then this, then this. People would find ways and science to manipulate that. And without those, it makes their job very difficult. Here's what I can say: it's never been disproven, right? There's never been any. Now, of course, people say, "Well, I believe in the science for these reasons." Fine, I disagree, but you can't say that the Bible isn't. You don't know. You don't know, right? You do not know if the creation story is real. You're hoping that the one miracle of the two atoms colliding and creating all of this is real. It's really just hope. You have no idea. You have as much hope in that as we do in that God created this earth.
It requires the same amount of faith.
It requires the exact same amount of faith. You can say that we're wrong, but you have the same exact
Honestly, I feel like
amount of data.
It requires more faith. That's more.
I agree.
That's more outside of the realm of possibility than there being a creator.
I think it's just so hard for me, and again, I know people are different than me, but just to look around and go, oh, this, like a fish started walking on the land and grew lungs and became a monkey, and then we became that. And that is crazy that you could believe that and then go, but there's no way a creator made this.
So why wouldn't that happen anymore? Why do
that's
those
a whole other argument.
Does the same fish not come out of the water?
Yeah.
That's a whole other argument, and I do think
It sounds pretty similar. What is it?
But I
What's
do
the
think.
argument?
What do you mean?
Why did it stop happening?
Evolution is another argument. We're on the creation of the earth, right?
Oh, okay.
Evolution is a whole new
Talk
thing.
about why the monkeys didn't.
Yeah, and I think microevolutions still happen. You know, I think that a species will adapt to a new environment.
Yeah, like the bird's beak.
That's
Like
adaptation, though.
Galapagos
That's not
Islands or
really-
whatever.
Well, it's an evolution.
Well,
There's species.
There's microevolution and macroevolution.
Macroevolution is monkeys turning into people. You know, right? Microevolution.
may have that
Microevolution
reversed.
would be that a fish, who lives in a low oxygen environment, like this species survives in a low oxygen environment, have a much higher lung capacity over time, so that they can
Yeah,
absorb
that's
more oxygen.
microevolution.
Right, that's
so
micro.
Small little changes.
Right.
Yeah.
It's like bull sharks being able to adapt to fresh water.
Right. Right.
But yeah, so that stuff does happen. But and the argument always is like, oh, we share so much DNA with chimpanzees, and that's what it is. But also, everything's
We
made
also
out of the
share a
same
ton
stuff.
of DNA as
With a
like
banana.
like a mushroom.
Yeah,
So what are we
everything
doing?
we all share. It's all we're all
For real?
built out of the same
Didn't
stuff.
know that.
Yeah, look
Yeah.
it up. Where you have like you're like 98% banana DNA.
No way.
Mm-hmm.
I've always felt like a banana.
You look like a. I'm not going to say it.
Say it.
I was going to say you look more like a mango, but
Oh, dude, I love a mango.
I do love a mango.
I could be a mango.
That's
I'm
the
thinking
egg of
pineapple.
That's
probably
the egg of
a little
the
bit of a
sun.
rough exterior, but
What are you
sweet and
getting at?
juicy on the
Pineapple,
inside.
yeah.
Oh no! Oh no!
That's me. That's
Oh
me.
no!
What did I miss?
Who, want
Okay.
a bite?
It's an inside joke.
Who
here.
wanna
Want a
bite?
bite?
I think we've gone off the rabbit trail too much here,
yeah.
guys. I want to go ahead and wrap this up. I think that was an interesting conversation. It's always like
Yeah,
we go
it's
back to
fun.
religious stuff or Christ in some way.
We bounce around.
which is good. No, it's good. So
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I know I did this on the
Here
last one
he
too.
goes.
Listen, no, this is important. This is important. The power of just speaking the name of Jesus. That's what's happening with Rogan. That's what Bryce Crawford's mission is. That's what the street preachers are doing. Maybe not all of them, sure. But there's power in that. If you just speak that name and speak the word out loud, the power is still there. If you just speak that word to people, it's going to implant itself in their minds and it's going to grow. That's our job. You
You're
plant that seed, that God's going to water that and make it grow.
yeah, no, I agree. I think that's how we shine light as Christians too. It's not to beat people over the head with what we believe and say you need to be believing this, and it's just not to do that. We just need to shine light, and you do that through doing little things like
Just planting the seed.
just saying
Yeah.
Jesus'
Just planting the
name
seed.
and let the Holy Spirit do its
Yeah.
job.
Yep.
You know,
And it's as simple as just saying, I believe in Jesus because he saved me.
Right.
I was in this one position. I started talking with him. He pulled me out of it. It's as simple as that. You just plant that
Yeah.
seed, man.
And then people will be like,
You got to
I want
trust.
that.
You got to, if you really believe in this, you got to really trust it to do its job.
and I do think see. I knew this was going to open a rabbit hole.
Go ahead.
I do think that we have an obligation as Christians to live in such a way that people want what we've got.
Yeah.
We need to live by loving other people, and by not like setting a hard, rigid standard that people need to live up to, but we need to be able to go. We need to live with joy and peace and love in such a way that people go, "I want what that guy's got," and then they begin to go, "How do you get that?" And you can go, "It ain't got nothing to do with me, dude. Literally nothing to do with me, because I am not a peaceful, joyful, loving guy. I can promise you that's not who I am at my core. But God, and through Jesus, he will work on us and allow us to be that. And so, yes, speak the name of Jesus. I think that shining the light is the way to do that, but also live in a way where people go, man, I want some of that.
Yeah.
good stuff.
Guys, thank you so much for tuning in. We hope you got some value, and I know there was a lot of banter and back and forth. We love these discussion episodes. They're funny. We talk about them for a few days after we finished each one. So if you like the show, please share the show, subscribe to the show, leave us a comment. If you could, let us know what your thoughts are. Let us know how you feel about creation or evolution and where you land on that. We'd love to have a conversation. If you have any questions, send them in to questions@bydesignshow.com. Thank you all so much for tuning in. We will see you on the next episode.